Greetings, friendos. This is Eric Kiska coming at you with another A24 Vibe discussion. Today we have an extra special episode as we decided to review a couple Oscar winners over the next few weeks as the film community prepares for the 2024 Academy Awards. But first, we start out every podcast by announcing what we're drinking. I'm drinking Canada's finest Labatt Blue. Kevin, what are you drinking?
I'm back on the Lion's Tail brew this week. I'm drinking Ecto Cool Slushy, which has got orange tangerine and a touch of lemon, and it's bright green. So that's cool.
Cole, what are you drinking?
This is Cole Willie Whitlaw Gibson. I am drinking High West Rendezvous, a blend of straight rye whiskeys. I brought it out because it's like a cowboy theme, and that's what we're reviewing.
Oh, yeah, I should have grabbed my bottle of High West. My next drink will be out of my bottle of High West because you inspired me.
And of course, we have one special guest on today. You might know him as being a Brian De Palma expert or maybe a 70s film aficionado. Our good friend Ray Neeman. Ray, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, Eric, I'm having a mule beer by Shorts Brewing. It's tried and true. It's a favorite. It's hard to get. It's back in stock, seasonal, and I picked up like 4 cases. So I
love Shorts.
Yeah, they don't make a bad beer, man.
Yeah.
No, you guys are both, Eric and you are drinking probably two of like my favorite beers, like Labatt Blue. That's like my favorite volume beer.
Yep.
Yeah, and then that Mule Shorts is amazing.
Isn't it great?
I remember when they came out of that with that back in like, God, I think it was like 2016 maybe. It was like right when I was 21 and it came out. I was like, this is amazing. This is the best beer.
Yeah.
This beer literally pours out bright green, it looks like Slimer from Ghostbusters.
Oh,
so when you pour it in the tap room, people look at like, what the hell is that person drinking? And it looks like, green tea,
awesome.
matcha.
Just call it the Grinch.
A24 on the rocks.
All right, so today we will be reviewing the 2007 it's 2008 Best Picture winner, the Coen Brothers Western crime thriller No Country for Old Men. It came out in 2007 but won Best Picture in 2008. Based off the 2005 novel written by Cormac McCarthy, this film debuted at the Cannes Film Festival in France on May 19th, 2007, before getting its U.S. nationwide release on November 21st, 2007. It is regarded by some as the best Coen Brothers film of all time, with a 93% Rotten Tomatoes score, and it won 4 Academy Awards at the 2008 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor for Javier Bardem, Best Director, and Best Adapted Screenplay for the Coen Brothers. Some see it as the spiritual successor to the 1996 Coen Brothers film Fargo, which lost out on Best Picture that year to The English Patient. It is the third lowest grossing Best Picture Oscar winner, only earning $74 million domestically. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of this film, I want to ask each of my co-hosts here, when and where did you watch this film for the first time? Ray, why don't you start us out?
I had got a screener copy of it on VHS, and it was terrible looking. And my first experience with the movie was less than stellar, simply because the picture quality was trash. So I didn't go back to it for a couple years. And when I did go back to it, it was a revelation. I mean, on the rewatch that I just did a couple nights ago, I think it might have passed Fargo as my favorite Coen Brother movie. And that's high praise. And, ask me tomorrow, and then I might say Barton Fink's my favorite. Or then ask me in 2 days. I mean,
I love Barton Fink, too. Yeah.
It's definitely not fluid, and that's a nice problem to have because all their movies are exceptional. But this one hit the sweet spot for sure.
How did you get screeners back then? Were you, yeah.
Yeah. What's the statute of limitations on this? So,
Where's that guy?
actually, I knew somebody that worked in a movie theater, and they threw the camera up there. So you can imagine how garbage quality it was. I mean, I don't even know why I continued to watch it, probably because of the thrill of, the forbidden fruit to watch this movie that was playing at the show on my TV set, even though it was terrible quality. Yeah. I never even returned the tape. I threw it out, so.
Gotcha. Yeah. Kevin, When and where did you first watch this film?
So, in my hazy memory of college, I don't remember if I watched this movie because I discovered the Coen Brothers and then found out that No Country for Old Men being in 2008, 2 years after, like right in the middle of when I had just started school, if this is the reason that I went to watch this, or if No Country for Old Men was the first Coen Brothers film for me. I can't believe I don't remember this, but Big Lebowski is the one that always lives in my brain for forever, and Fargo obviously is right there too. But this movie, I just remember watching it and knowing that the Coen Brothers were brilliant either around or while watching this. So I think my memory of it is having high expectations based on not just the cast, but knowing who the directors were, and then coming away from it being like, holy shit. As not a movie person, like for our listeners, remember that I only started watching movies like religiously during this podcast. Before this, it was like maybe on a date or if someone had it around or maybe on a vacation or something. But for the most part, I didn't really watch movies. So when I got an opportunity to watch this, it left an indelible mark on me even way back then. And then I hadn't watched it again until last night when I watched it for this podcast again. And I was like, well, I'm glad I loved it just as much the second time as I did the first. And it really left a great, great mark on me. So way back when it came out all the way till now. And just fantastic.
And you, Cole? Where and when did you watch this film first?
So I watched this. I was in high school, still living in my parents' basement. They put my room in the basement, so it was an actual basement. Yep. And
better than below the staircase, I guess. But
yeah, true. It was an unfinished basement. There was one room, and the rest of it was unfinished. That's where I was, down there in the cave. I watched a possibly illicit burner DVD version of it. And I didn't quite, I guess, understand the implications of that film. I watched it. It was like, yeah, that's pretty good. I didn't really like the ending, but, being a dumb high school kid, I don't think I quite understood everything that was going on. And then I've rewatched it quite a few times, including last night. And then about a month ago, while on a plane, I did back-to-back No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood. And I wanted to compare the two.
Yeah.
The other great film from that year. Yep.
It was, I'll tell you what, that was a good plane ride.
Yeah,
not that plane rides are ever very good, but it definitely made it go by faster. But yeah, I've grown to appreciate this film. Every single time I watch it, it's almost like incremental in terms of how good it gets. It's just like every time I watch it, it's just there's something else and something more I pick up and appreciate about what they did here.
I just want to say those two films, There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men, they were filmed at the same time and the same location,
same
like miles
place.
apart.
Yep.
Oh, amazing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
what
That's
a great
cool.
year for film, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
there's even
that movie too. Like I'm a big fan. I have a Blu-ray copy of it.
There's a story of the Coen Brothers were trying to film a scene, and there's a giant black smoke that
the oil
messed it all up, and it was because they were doing the pyrotechnics for the oil scene, and they had to stop shooting and come back later because they were over there doing the oil scene and fucking up their shot. So very funny.
So I was 16 when I first saw this film. I saw it in theaters because my dad was super obsessed with The Big Lebowski. And he showed me The Big Lebowski at that time and Fargo. And I saw it with 3 of my friends. And I distinctly remember on the ride home from the theater, my friend was just so in awe by Anton Chigurgh's character. He's like, that guy was what an amazing character. I cannot believe that character was put on film. And then my dad sternly looked back at him, and his name was Stuart, and he said, Jesus fuck, Stuart, do you have any fucking morals? And he was very angry at him.
Jesus
just
fuck,
imagine
Stuart!
saying, Jesus fuck, Stuart, do you have any morals? You know, how ironic that is.
I loved your dad before
this guy
but oh man.
Yeah, I think he was annoyed by how he was glamorizing a serial killer.
I mean, to be fair, that's a great reaction, though, to come out of that movie thinking about it.
Killer, but...
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and no, watching back, I'm like, this is a great character, but, I'm not going to glamorize what he does, I guess. But either way.
Good story, too.
So,
you better not tell your dad your favorite movie 7, Eric, because Christmas might be rough this year.
One Floor of the Cuckoo's Nest, but 7
right there, right?
Right behind it. Yeah. But so this film starts out with a voiceover of Tommy Lee Jones, who plays Sheriff Ed Tom Bell. and it shows establishing wide shots of the sweeping West Texas landscape. We, of course, do not know this is Sheriff Belliette, but he is talking about how some sheriffs used to not need guns on duty back in the day. He then goes into a story about how a kid in Huntsville murdered his 14-year-old girlfriend, saying, quote, he'd been planning to kill somebody for about as long as he could remember, said that if they turned him out, he'd do it again, said he knew he was going to hell, be there in about 15 minutes, unquote. Kevin, tell me why start out the film in this particular way?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like he had to establish that while he was a lawman, that life and death still can be taken just that quick, and some people are just plain bad. If you establish that there's a story about a kid who killed his girlfriend and says he'll kill again and got the chair because of it, that's a pretty bleak outlook. That's a pretty, people suck, murders out there, and, there has to be good with that. So it juxtaposed the fact that there was law and order to a story that was chilling and quick, and it accomplished all of those things and left the viewer kind of open-ended right away. I just really appreciated that. And I think he also kind of tells a story. Doesn't he talk about his dad, too, in that opening monologue? Or is that a later?
His dad was a lawman. His grandpa was a lawman before him.
So establishing the family line to law, and how there's, and there's a callback later when he wants to retire, and we'll get to it later. But it's just, I really appreciate that it really kind of just established him kind of not as a wholesome character, but as somebody who has seen the worst of it, but is still going to try to rise above it.
And this book, it was set in 1980, although this film does not really have a timestamp on it, right? Like, when I watched it... It does? Okay.
Yeah, so the scene where Chigurgh is flipping the coin in the convenience store with the old man, he says, this is a 1958 coin. It traveled 22 years to get to you.
Ah, yes. Okay, okay.
Oh, good.
And then there's also the tombstone at the end with the
mother's death.
Her mother.
Yeah. Okay.
In 1980
All right,
well.
So if you look at, or really, if you pay attention, it's there. But
so
no, I mean,
you gotta watch this movie.
I do feel like, though, this film is like, well, you could relate this to today. It's just kind of like all this crime going on, and how comparing it how it used to be, like, I guess 60 years ago at that point, pre-Vietnam almost, because we do have a few mentions of Vietnam. But yeah, this film definitely, it takes place right when the drug war was really, really getting big. And Ray, do you think like that opening monologue, do you think it's kind of trying to establish already this kind of like older generation versus younger generation not really understanding this nihilism that's running amok?
Oh, yeah, I do. I think you see that Tommy Lee Jones at the beginning of the movie, he's already disillusioned. He doesn't understand the world that's around him. It confuses him. And he talks about back in the old days, guns weren't necessary. And there's a scene later on in the film where he's talking to a fellow sheriff where they are just both discussing about the new generation, and the audacity for a murderer to go back to his crime scene and commit another murder. In the old days, they would hightail out of town, but there's no respect for people anymore, or the law. So yeah, I think that Tommy Lee Jones he's already at the end of the line. He's just looking for the reason to get off, and any stop will do for him.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of nihilism running amok, it isn't long before we meet our great villain, Anton Chigurgh, played by Javier Bardem. And in my opinion, he is arguably one of the top 5 best movie villains of all time. If I had to make a list, I would definitely put him in the top 5, I think. There are very few movie villains where you kind of get a chill down your spine the first time you actually see their face on screen. And I would definitely say Chigurgh is that for me. Another one might be Hannibal Lecter, when the camera turned into his prison cell. I got a chill down my spine. But either way, he, of course, is introduced to us by strangling a cop on the floor of a jail cell, or not a jail cell, on the floor of a jail. Cole, what went through your mind when you first were introduced to Anton Chigurgh?
Yeah, I mean, the first time you watch the film and you see that it's very, I guess, shocking and very abrupt because you don't really know what's going on. You're kind of getting thrown into it, and you don't know why the guy got arrested or what's happening. And you just get immediately thrown into it, and he just kills this guy and immediately just continues on and then continues this rampage. And, he plays this character so well. Like you said, he's a top 5 villain, and he shows like no remorse, like extreme like psychopath tendencies to like the max in terms of how his character is portrayed and how he portrays the character with just complete disregard for death and causing harm and stuff to anyone. Like strangles the cop, shows no remorse, takes off the cuffs, takes the cop car to pull over another guy to just immediately kill him and take his car, and does not, care. And like that interaction, I think the interaction with the guy on the side of the road was even more impactful because, the guys
see the demented look in his face. It's just like,
yeah. And I could, not that you could justify killing a person, but you can see that he's a bad dude and he was arrested by the cops. So he's trying to escape, and to escape, he had to kill the guy. Okay, sure, there's some justification in like a weird kind of, roundabout way. But then when he goes to pull over this guy and he's just on his way to home or whatever, and he's talking to him and has that just dead face and pulls up the, the cattle prod, I think, can't remember what it's called, some type of...
Cattle prod, I think is, yeah.
Yeah. And
it's technically a captive bolt stunner, if you want.
That's what it's called.
Completely accurate.
Yes. Thank you, Kevin. And he just tells the guy to stand still as he pushes it onto his head and then kills him instantly. Just does not care. And just gets in the car and drives away. So immediately sets the tone that this guy is just a monster. But it was awesome. I mean, like, I don't know. The way that they tell the story of these characters through, especially that character, for how little he talks, is very well done.
For sure. Kevin, what went through your mind when you first were introduced to Anton Chigurgh?
I was actually scared, like legitimately terrified of his character on a visceral level, I guess. Like there's something about being uncomfortable with someone's acts, but then there's something about being uncomfortable with them every time that they are on the screen and everything that they do. There was a level of unpredictableness that I thought was just insane, and I remember thinking at the time, I think that's what a serial killer would really be like. Or that's probably what, the definition of a psychopath is. And I come to find out later that there's, been reports and stuff of independent journals of psychology basically saying that his character was, in fact, an accurate representation of what a psychopath would actually be like. So I'm glad that the effect of his character was real, as if I actually got to spend 2 hours watching what a real-life psychopath would do and would act like and have zero regard for human life. It's just chilling even thinking about it now while rediscussing it after digesting it for the last 24 48 hours, whatever it is. So yeah, I just remember being really scared and just uncomfortable.
Yeah. So film theory time. Well, Ray, I was going to ask you, why do you think Anton Chigurgh let himself be arrested? That's something that is never answered, but like he definitely let himself be arrested. This man does not get arrested by accident.
You asked me the one question that I don't have a clue. I'm thinking he might have got arrested because of the haircut. Anybody that's going to roll with that Dorothy Hamill, Bucky Lawson haircut that he had on his head. No, obviously... I don't know what the plan was. Perhaps he wanted to find out if the police had uncovered where the drug deal had gone. Maybe he could hear something on a police radio, or maybe there was some information at the police station. But I think immediately when he was captured and he was listening to the conversation, he realized that this state policeman wasn't going to be much help and probably wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer. He'd just steal the car, move along. He seems like he's a man who he's capable of finding things that he needs to finish his assignment. So this was just a small bump in the road for him. But yeah, I wish I knew for sure.
I have a question about. I just want to know about the clarity of the plot a little bit, and I know you'll probably describe it, but I was a little confused even on the second watch about Was Chigurgh hired by the cartel to find the money? Was that the idea?
I don't think so.
Why was he involved?
Not the cartel.
When he goes down with the two suits and shoots him in the bottom of the ravine, why is he there? Why is he's with two individuals that know the shootout, right? Because then he turns around and executes them right there.
I think he's a lone gunman going for money. I think it might be.
But he's with those two guys. Like they take him to the scene.
He
right?
could have just been impersonating to be somebody that might be in the cartel.
I have a theory.
He might just be like, I'm a bag man.
I want to hear your theory, Ray. What?
I think Eric makes a good point that maybe he's pretending to be part of the Mexican cartel. The two guys are part of the mafia. They're the money. It's their money that's lost. And I also think that perhaps the mafia hired him to find out if the money was stolen, and his job is to get it back, much like they hire Woody Harrelson, because now they realize that Chigurgh is going rogue and he's going to keep the money himself after he murders their two men.
Has anyone read the book?
I have. Yep. It's been a long time, but so I was going to say this. The Coen Brothers literally wrote this straight from the book. One of the Coen Brothers opened the book, would place it right next to the keyboard, and keep it open for the other Coen brother to write it. I'm sure they took turns writing it. So it's literally verbatim from the book, and this isn't explored much more. And well, I was going to say, I think in that office scene later where we meet Woody Harrelson, I don't think they even know who Chigurgh is. They're like, this guy just killed two people.
Doesn't Harrelson know exactly the last date and time he saw him?
Harrelson does, but not the other guy that hired Harrelson. So, yeah, I think he's a man of mystery, but...
I want to read the book. That's all I know now.
Yeah. I mean, as we get more into theories, I think he might be the literal interpretation of the Grim Reaper, coming and going, giving death to people as he sees it fit. Anyway, moving on. Now we have to meet Llewelyn Moss here. So, right after this, Llewelyn Moss is portrayed by Josh Brolin. He is hunting deer in West Texas before he accidentally happens upon the drug deal gone wrong. There is seemingly only one man left who is about to die at any moment, and Moss then surveys the landscape before finding a satchel of money. And I think there was a moment here where he kind of looked at the satchel, and he knew that by taking this, he'd be putting himself in a world of trouble. I don't think by any means he saw the money and thought to himself, I'll get away with this scot-free, And Ray, if you were in Llewelyn's shoes, would you have taken that money? And furthermore, why do you think he chose to take it, knowing he was about to put himself in a world of trouble?
It would have been the shortest movie ever, bro. I would have opened up that.
Yeah.
I saw all that money. I would have clutched my chest and dropped to the ground and probably had a heart attack. And then somebody else would have kicked my body to the side and taken the money. He took the money because it was free money. Everybody was dead. There was no witnesses, and he thought he could get away with it. Again, he was a resourceful guy. I think he believed he was capable of getting away with it, and he very well might have had he not returned to do the humane thing and give the guy water. And that kind of brought the trouble his way. But we find out later that the money is actually bugged, and they might have eventually found him, but at that point he might have been long gone. That transponder's from 1980, so it's not going to pick up a signal like the GPS we have today, of course. It was a way out. It was a way out for his wife not to have to work at Walmart. They lived in a trailer park. It was a tough life they had, so It was an easy out.
Kevin, what did you think of Llewelyn Moss and Josh Brolin's portrayal of him?
Oh, man, what a character. What a character that has so little dialogue to kind of make a frame for himself. I think Josh Brolin talked about it in some interviews that he was a little initially nervous at the role because of the lack of dialogue and how oftentimes that's how an actor sets up a character, right? On the basis of the dialogue that is given. But with Llewelyn Moss, it's a lot of honey, grunts and things that are just kind of a lot of body language related things, and just the way that the Coen brothers framed him and used Josh Brolin. It was his character. I wrote it down this time. It's like it almost comes across as bored, meaning like he's just kind of traveling through each moment of the movie unaffected differently than the scene before it. He's just kind of in a consistent state of calm demeanor. There's some moments, of course, that he's agitated, but for the most part, even when he's like when his wife asks him what he's about to go do, and he's like, fixing about to do something stupid, and like that's about as extreme as it gets when he knows that whatever he's about to go do may be the end of his life. I mean, you asked Ray whether or not he would have taken the money, and why does Llewelyn take the money? Who knows why he takes it? He probably looks at his life with his wife in his trailer and wants more for his family, like not anybody, but what a lot of people would do. Why is he didn't take a couple million out of his, or a couple $100,000 and put it in his pocket to run away? Never the wiser. That's, for the movie to decide. But as far as his portrayal, really liked it. Was a fan start to finish. It was exactly what that character needed to play off of such a captivating, crazy character like Anton Chigurgh.
So how did Llewelyn Moss turn into Thanos? What is the point A to point B here?
Well, if you have read the Deadpool versus Cable comic books, you would know that Josh Brolin would eventually take this money to buy a time-traveling device to allow him to become a time-traveling mercenary called Cable, which would then grant him the abilities to eventually pull together and conquer worlds, and he would get the Infinity Stones and become Thanos. Josh Brolin is also the only actor in the world that has played two different characters in two Marvel movies, Cable and Thanos.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, that's how he would do it. Also, he was hanging out with the Goonies back in the day.
I was about to say, how are we not asking how the connection
time.
of Josh Brolin to Goonies is the first thing
that would actually make more sense. Goonies to
Yeah.
No Country for Old Men,
It goes Goonies, No Country for Old Men, Deadpool, and then Thanos. You got to watch them in chronological order.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyways.
Ray, you were about to say something?
I just want to comment about Brolin's performance because I think Kevin nailed it. Anton Chigurgh is such a huge character that you need somebody that can, tip the scales and even things out. And he's not just a worthy adversary; he's his equal. Chigurgh doesn't beat him. Chigurgh doesn't beat him. He loses on something completely different. And when I watch that movie, I mean, the flashy role is Chigurgh, but like when I watch Training Day, Denzel Washington kills it. But I mean, watch Ethan Hawke, what he does in that movie. Without Ethan Hawke, who's just gives a super quiet and strong performance, they just work so well together. I don't think you can have one without the other. They're different sides of the same coin.
Yeah. Oh, that's great reference there. So I want to fast forward to the coin toss scene next.
Let's talk about that.
Where our villain, Anton Chigurgh, was seemingly getting gas at a gas station before he approaches a gas station proprietor who questions him about if Dallas has been getting any rain recently. This then devolves into Chigurgh making this man call a coin flip for if he will live or die. And in my opinion, this is one of the most brilliantly written scenes ever put on film. And like I was saying, this is definitely taken right from the book, but still the way they portray it in film and Chigurgh's every single facial movement he gives in this scene is just perfect and delivery perfect. But Cole, what did you think of this coin toss scene?
This whole movie, and especially I think this scene kind of culminates my feelings, is just high anxiety, high stress. Especially when that character Chigurgh comes in, it's always something bad is always going to happen. Or at least that's the feeling. And I just feel like I'm constantly on edge. And this, rewatching this movie really reminded me of, Uncut Gems from A24, where you watch that movie and it is just, you're if I had a heartbeat tracker, it's 100 BPM plus whole time because you're just stressed out. And that whole interaction is, this guy's just trying to make small talk and he just, he says the wrong thing because he looked at the license plate. And immediately, Chigurgh just being, someone that is very intelligent and very, aware of what's happening. And he knows that this guy could possibly, in some way, result in someone getting in his way. And once the guy really, he realizes this guy sees his license plate, asks him where he, about Dallas and stuff. He obviously isn't from Dallas. He's from, who knows where, probably hell. But That whole scene and that interaction between those two just really it was so good. And you just, it's, I don't know, it's one of those scenes where it takes place one spot with two people talking, and that's all they're doing. I mean, really, it's just two people talking to each other, two actors. And he just, Javier just kills it in that whole scene. And then they finally do, he talks about the 22 years, this coin traveled all the way here, and then he flips it, and a guy calls it, and he calls it right, and you're just like, you feel the relief for that character. Yeah. And it's just like a weight off your shoulder. And then he goes and he, takes the coin, gives him the coin, and he's like about to put it in his pocket. He's like, "Don't you put that in your pocket." You're like, "Oh, he's about to kill this guy again." And he's
put it in the pocket.
It'll be with the rest of the coins. It'll be like a normal coin, which it is.
So and something.
The guy's expression was just like,
insignificant becomes so powerful with that coin, because that coin essentially signifies that guy's life, and Chigurgh is basically giving him his life back with that coin. Like he's giving him the ability to keep on living and continuing his life. But good scene.
Later with Carson Wells, he tells Llewelyn Moss, like, this man has principles, like, if you could call them that. And I actually think this scene kind of it shows like maybe what kind of principles he has. He believes in fate, and he believes he's just an instrument of fate, and that we all die sooner or later, but he has no problem being the person to decide when other people die. Ray, do you think the scene, might portray that, or maybe what kind of principles Chigurgh has?
I think this scene shows you that the Coen brothers are saying anything goes with this guy, and it's as simple as a flip of a coin. He's on that line. You don't know which way he's going to go. He doesn't know which way he's going to go. So he lets, like you said, he lets fate, decide. And he's an interesting character because there's no character that's quite like him. I mean, that's what makes him so unique. Everybody has an agenda. I guess his agenda is to get the money, but along the way, he also has, I guess, subsets of, okay, he's been wronged here, or he has to make this right. It seems like whatever he does, it's a decision that will further his cause, and who's ever in his way, consequences be damned for them.
And that's what like makes me think that he was hired by like the Americans or the mafia, but then he got pissed off because they also hired some like Mexicans, like cartel people, to also try and find the money. And then they also hired Woody Harrelson, Carson Wells, and they like broke his rule again, because he goes on that whole speech about the tools and the right tool for the job and why would you do that and stuff like that. So he's felt wronged by them, and I think that's also part of the reason why he killed those dudes.
Where I'm confused is, like, okay, so the man in the office says, Anton Chigurgh by sight. Is that correct, to Carson Wells? So, if anything, if they did hire him, they never met him in person. Yeah, in the same conversation, he said, we got a loose cannon. So that would actually say, okay, maybe he was hired, but went off on his own quickly.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I also just have a hard time believing that Chigurgh would take the money and run, because he's just like such a psychopath.
Yeah, he doesn't need money. He's doing it.
He would take money and kill everybody. I think that's which is the thrill of one by one death.
I mean, he's there to get the money. I think he was given a task, and he does not give a fuck about what is in his way or who he has to kill, because he was given this task, and that's what he's going to obsess about.
It's the same reason why he goes back and kills the wife at the end. Because he has to finish. He has to finish what he started.
No.
Right. Sorry. Why he maybe or maybe didn't kill her at the end is because, like he says in the scene, like, your husband had a choice and he picked himself, and now I'm here to finish it because I said I was going to do it, and that's it.
He's not. So, he's the definition of like a psychopath or sociopath. It's like whatever. I don't know what path he is, but
psychopath.
Psycho. Yeah, he's just psychopath.
No emotion, no empathy. He has a set of rules, a set of expectations, and he's not going to deviate no matter what. He will he killed that dude's wife.
But he's also smart and calculating. So like the office lady who refuses to say where Llewelyn works, he could have killed her, right? But then
She
he
would
hears
have
someone
killed
in the
him easily,
bathroom.
though, with that
Oh,
stare.
right. Yeah. But then he hears someone in the bathroom and he realizes the odds got worse and he doesn't know who's in the bathroom. So his calculation was like, it's not worth my time.
Yeah.
And then walks away. So, like, he doesn't just kill everyone and anything. He's very, very calculated about how
He's
he
a
goes about
psychopath,
it
but not a
and
serial
where.
killer, because he doesn't just kill for joy, although he might get some kind of joy out of it. But, like, he kills for a means, but
For
he
purpose.
just
His
overkills.
purpose,
Though.
right?
Like, he
Yeah.
will kill anybody and everybody if he feels like it. So,
Which is a juxtaposed to the Mexicans who end up killing, Llewelyn at the end, and they'll show the body of the female in the pool. Like, she was innocent, right? There was no reason to kill her, but she was.
I
just
think
capped
they were.
off
I
in
think
that
they were
final
together
scene.
drinking beer at the pool. They got the drop on
Yeah.
him, and he tried to
Right,
get
that
to
makes
his room,
sense,
and
right.
they murdered him, and she was
Yeah, yeah.
collateral damage. And I also
There we
think,
go.
Eric, you made a good point that they hired Chigurgh, the mafia did, to try to get their money back. They didn't know what he looked like, but when he got there, the two other mafia men were there. They could make him. They know his identity. So what does he have to
Yeah.
do? He has to murder them.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good point. Right. You saw me, he says, right? To someone else later. I don't remember what that scene was, but
Yeah. Do you, the guy asks, are you going to kill me? And then he just said, like, that depends.
Did
Do
you
you
see
see
me?
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. That's what
He's
the
a
scene
ghost.
was.
He wants
Yep.
to be a ghost, you know?
Yep, that's exactly right.
But,
Yeah, same
all right.
thing with the kids. Yeah.
Let's
And,
rewind
well,
a
yeah, it
bit
doesn't
here.
kill the, all that.
So I do want to talk about the action sequences in this film, because it just feels like, although there's a fair amount of action in this movie, there's also like little to no music. There's 16 minutes total of music, quote unquote, in this film. 7 of it is in the credits, and most of the other music, you can't really hear it. It's just droning noises. And I would say there's like a certain slow and steady rhythm to all of these action scenes. So, Ray, as a lover of John Wick, what did you think of how the Coen Brothers accomplished the action sequences in this movie, especially these hotel scenes where Llewelyn is constantly on the move, having to scheme up ways to hide the money and get himself out of trouble?
Oh, I mean, in a word, brilliant. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the Wachowskis, I should say, their film Bound. There's just a lot of moving cameras. There's the briefcase in the vent, shadows underneath the door, a lot of shadows. What's so amazing is there's a lot of they shoot with a lot of ambient lights, and yet you can see everything. No matter how dark it is, it's like you're so focused and attuned to what's happening. It's like it's a tour de force. I mean, it is such a directorial flex, and the tension that they're able to create without using a score, just using sort of an unsettling buzz or hiss in the background. I mean, there isn't just one scene. The scene where Josh Brolin's being chased and getting shot at, and he jumps in the water, and the dog goes after him. But the scene where Chigurgh finds him in the hotel room and stops in front of the door, and then he keeps walking to turn off the light, and then that just escalates to him jumping out the window, a gunplay in the streets. I mean, it's nuts. I've seen this movie now, I think 4 times, and every time I watch it, I see something different. It's just jaw dropping. I mean, it's masters doing what they do better than almost anybody on the planet.
For sure. Yeah, and a little fun fact about Coen Brothers, and they created a camera technique called the shaky cam, and they worked on Evil Dead with Sam Raimi.
Yep.
And they created the shaky cam by strapping a camera to a 2x4 and having 2 people run with the 2x4. And so this limits the bounce of one person running with a camera at all times. And so also, like, if, let's say you wanted to bring a camera over a car, you can have 2 people running with it and then, like, carry it over the car because it's, strapped to a 2x4. So they have some say in cinema history for sure. But Kevin, what did you think of these action sequences as also another action film lover?
I did want to touch about the soundtrack thing. I don't know if you're going to come back to it or not.
Yeah,
but
of
in an
course,
earlier
touch on
episode, you had mentioned this fact about No Country for Old Men being no music, and I was like, wait, what? And I couldn't wrap my head around it because every most movie I've ever watched in my life, I feel like has some sort of soundtrack to it, and unless I wasn't really paying attention to it. So, of course, on this watching, I was painfully paying attention to every lack of of noise, lack of sound, lack of soundtrack, lack of backing, and it was brilliant. I freaking loved the fact that this movie was able to keep me so completely captivated and motivated and like invested without any sort of backdrop at all. I mean, I am a type of person who listens to soundtracks of movies all the time. It's like a really big part of my movie going experience, and this lack of it was brilliant. I loved the freaking scene where Llewelyn wakes up in Mexico and you get the mariachi band playing over him, and that's like the only music that you get, and it's just so until they see his blood stain and like they're just and they slowly stop playing. I was just like, this so good. Have no music at all and then just have a complete blast of color and music, and then just to have it die as quickly as it started was excellent. As far as the actual action themselves, man, there is so many just jump scare violent moments in here that really just get you, like where you don't really expect him to, I don't know, pull the trigger or to fire that at a certain point in time. But like when he comes into the room and blasts all the mafia guys waiting for Llewelyn in the hotel room the first time with the silenced shotgun, I was just like,
they made a silenced shotgun just for this movie too. That's not an actual thing. That's a thing they just made for the movie. Cole,
well,
is that? Yeah,
you can tell me all about the actual accuracy. But as far as the rest of the action scenes go, it was great. They were full of shots that made you believe that it could actually be happening. We already talked about it, but that car chase through the desert as he's outrunning the flipping Jeep and the dogs and the whole thing, I was just like, oh my God, is this ever going to end? This is just crazy. So very well done. I was a big fan.
Cole, any soapbox on the gun usage in this film? As you definitely, you're one of those people that likes to shoot guns in the air while balls deep in a squealing hog. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a resident of Alaska. If you don't have a gun in Alaska, you're not going to be a resident for very long.
What about a squealing hog?
No, I will say that the gun scenes or the action scenes are probably some of, again, more of the more realistic portrayals of gunfights where they're very quick and they end very quickly because, again, you get shot, it's
guns,
kind of game over. It's not Call of Duty. I love the Coen Brothers. I think are some of the best in terms of the quality control in terms of their films for things and identities and continuity and making sure that their films have are based or in the reality of that film. And they're very well done. Obviously, they took creative liberties, but a silent shotgun did not exist in the 80s. A silent shotgun in this film does not exist, period.
It doesn't exist at all in the world, right? I thought that was just something that it showed Chigurgh, he put that onto his gun because he's innovative, but yeah.
Yeah, so they have silencers that exist now for shotguns, but they are not like that at all. I mean, most silencers aren't like that. Even if you use subsonic rounds, you're not going to get something that quiet. But with a shotgun, the best you're going to get, I did research because I did not think they were real, but apparently in 2016 one came out, and they've been produced since then for shotguns. No Country for Old Men, probably. Somebody's
I want that.
Oh, I'm sure that scene. Come on.
But
sick.
The decibel limits, it gets you down to 136 decibels, which is 4 decibels below the pain threshold and 6 decibels above a jet engine. So it is not quiet. Yeah. It's just you can shoot it without physically being in pain, but it's still going to be a gunshot. It's still going to be loud. And really the main benefit of a silencer is it actually adds more velocity to your rounds, but it's still not realistic.
You lose accuracy though with the silencer, don't you?
Yes, you do. And that's part of the reason why silencers for shotguns never existed, because when you're shooting birdshot or buckshot, it sprays, so that you have to have a certain type of baffle system that doesn't get damaged from it. But it's that was my big thing against it is that. And when he blows the locks off doors, which is such a badass, cool thing. I absolutely love the idea and the concept because it is so, terrifying to be sitting there waiting for someone to show up and then just, the lock to just be blown off, right? So cool. but it's not. That's not how locks work. Like you could, even if you blew the lock off, like that, the cylinder, not the lock, you blew the cylinder off. If it's a deadbolt, if it's a latch of any type, that latch is still going to be from the door to like the piece of wood, like your deadbolt. If you ever install the lock or take a deadbolt out, that big metal rod is still going to be stuck in there. So he could blow it out, but the door's still just going to be locked. So unless he had something could suck that back in, it's not going to go anywhere. But again, I understand it's a movie, and I understand it's cool as fuck. So
it's one of those movies where you can forgive it.
I accept it because, and again, like the Coen Brothers do such a good job with their films of like trying to date it properly. I mean, like I was reading up about it where, you know, when Tommy Lee Jones is talking about other sheriffs from other counties and he name drops them. They're names of real sheriffs from like the 80s in that time of those counties. Like they like, you know, took the time to really understand what they're trying to film and put it into reality and ground it. And I really appreciate that, which gives me some leeway when it comes to things like a silent shotgun or blowing locks off doors and stuff like that. Like that's fine. Cause it's pretty fucking cool. And like, it adds to the thrill and the like element of that film.
Seeing that we're talking science here, something occurred to me that, you know, forget the fact that this guy's walking around with like a 4-foot tank of compressed air. I don't know about you guys. Have you ever lifted a propane tank up that's full? Or if you've ever had a scuba tank on your back? Yeah, he's just walking around like he's got like an 8-pound bowling ball in his hand.
Well,
he's a big dude, yeah.
And again, if you're like punching the lock out, he stands there and he flips it. Like, you know, every reaction has an opposite and equal reaction. He's just fucking like, stoic. Yeah. Like he is
He's
jacked.
An engineer,
I'll tell you what, like Sugar he is built because he's carrying that tank like nothing. And when he blows that lock off, there is no recoil. He feels nothing.
All right. Well, Great science by Cole. Good movie details by Cole there. So
very good.
Let's now focus on Carson Wells for a little bit here, portrayed by Woody Harrelson. He says he's just a day trader by trade, but he's the only one who knows of Anton Chigurgh and what he's capable of. Yet he still takes the job to try to kill him. Kevin, what did you think of Carson Wells here, and why do you think Cormac McCarthy and the Coen Brothers decided to mention that both Carson and Llewelyn are Vietnam veterans? I feel like that's actually a pretty large part of their characters.
That's a great question. So his character is very mysterious to me in general. Like I was kind of wondering how he got to the office and now like kind of like in the first place to be hired and his backdrop and all of those things. And clearly he's a hitman of some sort, right? Someone who's trained to kill individuals. Probably where the Vietnam part comes in, maybe for me, is maybe he learned some of the skills in Vietnam or was doing all those terrible things in Vietnam that kind of maybe makes you easier.
He probably did wet work, I'm sure.
Contract killer. Yeah, exactly. So my point is I think the Vietnam reference is definitely some sort of veiled reference to some of the atrocities that happened from Americans in Vietnam and some of the things that they were capable of and all of that jazz. Or it kind of also made, like you said, some sort of communication between or connection between those two characters, even though they didn't really have a connection outside of their one meeting. I think that the Vietnam part is probably just part of the book, part of the time, part of the setting that they needed to get, you know, Llewelyn back into the States and some sort of backdrop there. I did, I guess, appreciate the kind of the way that scene played out with him and Anton Chigurgh sitting in that in the hotel room before Woody Harrelson meets his untimely demise. There was just a certain level of tension where you knew exactly what was going to happen. You knew, even if you didn't remember it, you knew the scene was like, oh yeah, this guy's going to get his. And they just made it, and it just, I don't know. Can you make a classy murder scene? Is that possible? I don't know, but they did. They figured it out.
Well, I think it's like Chigurgh's talking in riddles, and he's just like, if the rule you followed got you to this, of what use was the rule? Which is just like a very, you could think that's like a philosophical question that you would ponder right, you want to ponder right before you die, or it could just be, well, whatever like knowledge you had, like walking around here, thinking that you could kill me. It doesn't lead to anything. I literally just followed you up a staircase, and like I got the drop on you super easily, and you're gonna die now. But yeah, Ray, what did you think about kind of the sequence too, where we're, I guess, introduced to Carson, then he talks to Llewelyn in the hospital, kind of man to man, both as Vietnam veterans,
Right.
but then he dies just like super easily, just at the drop of the hat here. And we're going to talk about Llewelyn a little bit here, about how I would say uneventful his death was. But what did you think about Carson's death sequence here?
I think he was caught off guard because I don't think he respected that Chigurgh could get the drop on him, because he'd been trained probably by the government. He no longer was a member of the government, but what he did was, he was an assassin. That's what he was hired to do. He was hired to track down Chigurgh. He thought he had the edge because Chigurgh's crazy. And I think he was shocked that he would have the audacity or the balls to show up at the hotel that he was at, and he got the drop on him, which I think surprised him as well. I don't think he saw that coming. So then he tried to do what most people do in those situations. He tried to bargain, and then he just realized, his fate had been sealed, because you can't reason with crazy. He realized, because he was a veteran, just like Josh Brolin's character was, that he knew he was out of his element. He was a soldier. He wasn't a killer, and he was giving him an out. But at that point, he was already all in. So there was no going back.
Yeah. And let's not forget also the scene directly before this, before he gets the drop on him, is that scene where Sheriff is talking to Carla Jean, Llewellyn's wife. And he tells the story about a man named Charlie Walser who tried to shoot a cow before the bullet ricocheted and hit him in the arm. And he said the point of the story is that even in the contest between man and steer, the issue is not certain. Cut to Anton Chigurgh killing Carson Wells, like basically he's some livestock. Cole, what did you think? Do you think that story was trying to just lead up right to that?
Yeah, I mean, that story, I think, had like a couple different layers to it. But the main layer of the onion is just how fickle life can be in terms of how quickly it can end. And when you have a person like Chigurgh who has no empathy, like every time I watch this film, the scene where he kills Woody Harrelson, his character Carson Wells, like I am still shocked at like when he shoots him, because it's so just abrupt and without care in the world. They're like mid conversation, talking like philosophical, and just bam, dead right away immediately. And then he just picks up the phone and puts his feet up because he doesn't want blood on his shoes as it's running through the room. So that story of how something so minute and so like can quickly change your whole life, like the guy with the steer. He's probably shot a steer in the head 1,000,000 times if he's running a farm or a butcher plant, and the 1,000th time he gets ricocheted and hit in the shoulder, and that led to that because of injuries that happened to people from ricocheted bullets. So they came up with this invention, which that invention then Chigurgh uses to kill people, so he doesn't leave a trail behind him of like any type of evidence.
The captive bolt stunner.
Yeah, captive. And it's such a cool way to kind of tie all these things in. And then obviously there was the scene earlier where they're like, what bullet did he use to kill that one guy when he took his car? Oh, well, there wasn't a bullet. So Tommy Lee Jones's character kind of comes to that realization while he's telling the story and stuff. It's just, I don't know, everything's so interconnected in this film. It's very well done. And again, just that scene and the story and, everything that Tommy Lee Jones says in this film is so, I think, impactful. And, he's listed as the #1 actor, or the first title card, right? But he doesn't have the most screen time, but I think he has some of the most impactful in terms of his like stories that he tells and how it correlates and relates to what he's seen. And I don't know, it's just I just love it so much.
All right, well, Now, as we get towards the end here, Llewelyn, of course, ends up dead at the motel he was supposed to meet his wife and mother-in-law at, because his mother-in-law told one of the drug runners where she was going. I believe that's how the drug runners found him. Yet we don't even see Llewelyn's death on screen. We only hear gunshots and see a truck of people driving away. Kevin, why not show Llewelyn's death on screen after all that we've been through with him?
Oh, because I think the focus is still on Anton one way or another, and I think the story between those two is mostly what captures the novel, captures the people's interest in this film, their interaction between the good and evil, essentially, is what it kind of sets it down to. Ray had mentioned it earlier in the podcast, how he doesn't, like, Javier Bardem, or like, he doesn't even get Josh Brolin's character. Like, he isn't even the one that ends up doing it. So I think that you give the cartel or the murderers as little credit as possible, as little face time, as little vindication as you got him good. I think you're meant to focus on all of the other things that his character had done before that and that had led him to that position, instead of focusing on the act of his death itself. I thought that was really, really brilliantly done. And also it gave us that brilliant scene of the sheriff literally pulling in right behind the cartel as they're leaving the scene of the crime. And you get this just epic gasp of, oh my God, did this just happen type of deal. I don't know, there was just something about the anticipation and the way they did it that you almost expected, if he was going to die, for you to see it and be it on screen. And then when it doesn't, it subverted your expectations, but somehow didn't at the same time. I know that was a lot of words jumbled all into one, but that's how I kind of felt coming out of it. So it was just really well done, good choice, and it made you think about the act itself a lot more because of not being able to see it.
You know, I think that the choice to not show his death on screen was actually a larger kind of philosophical point of the whole movie. And I think it's the Coen Brothers and Cormac McCarthy kind of trying to say that none of us are really heroes. You know, we're here for a short time, then we die in this kind of humdrum way off screen with no real impact made on the world. And that's what Sheriff Bell is kind of wondering this whole time with his legacy. I'm getting older. What impact have I made on the world? Where's my legacy? Like, all this, we're getting overtaken by crime and drugs, and I haven't done anything to help this. And that is why I think this film falls in the anti-Western genre with, like, Unforgiven. And I think the Coen Brothers were they love subverting genre expectations. And the choice to, like, kind of kill our main protagonist just off screen, it was just kind of like, no, we're not falling into the Western genre here. This guy's not a hero. He's going to die like anybody else, and we're not going to see it. And they were very conscious in doing that. Cole, do you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, and again, like, it goes back to that story too, where it's just life is so fickle, and you can die so quickly. And right before that, they set up this whole, like, hero situation where Josh Brolin or Llewelyn is gonna.
Final showdown or something,
yeah,
right? But,
he just talked to Chigurgh on the phone, and he's ready to go, and he stays at a hotel and, maybe lets his guard down just a little bit, and he gets just completely blown away by a bunch of random dudes with Uzis that show up, not even the main bad guy, not even, like, it's just how like, I love it because it's how, like, life works. The real world works. The hero and the villain so rarely, if ever, like, square off one-on-one, baby, like, going to town. It's going to be you or me. And instead, it's just some random fucking douchebag that shows up and shoots you instead, and you get no vindication, nothing out of it. He dies. Chigurgh doesn't get anything. It's all just fucked up, and Tommy Lee Jones shows up 30 seconds later, and I'm glad he did, because if he
I
showed
disagree. I think Chigurgh definitely gets the money.
Oh, he gets the money.
Llewelyn hides. He
they
definitely
show
hides
the
it before the Mexicans show up.
undone.
And then,
I think he went back to the
dime
scene of
right
the crime.
next
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So he does get the money, but he doesn't. They don't have their big face off and all that stuff.
Yeah, which I love. Yeah.
Yeah, which
No,
I think
brilliant.
is just when I first watched it when I was 16 in my parents' basement, I was annoyed by it because I loved action movies, right? And I loved shootouts and all this stuff. That's what I thought. I thought I was gonna watch, like, a cool Western where they're just gonna go blasting away. And but instead we didn't, and I think I've grown to appreciate that, because it's so I've talked about how I love slice of life type films, and in a way this film feels like that, but it's not like a normal day occurrence, right? Like, we normally don't find $2 million in the middle of the desert and try and figure out what we're going to do with it. But it still feels kind of like a slice of life, where you have just a realistic portrayal. You have just stupid stuff happens and shit happens, and you could die or get hit by a car or get into a car accident leaving the scene of a crime, just because, you just never know. And it's just such a, it's so good.
For sure. All right. Well, yep. Ray.
So-
Anti-Western. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well,
too?
I think it's a noir thriller for sure. And it is an anti-Western because there are no good guys and well, I guess there is a bad guy, but they're working in shades of gray. At least the hero's working in a shade of gray, if you want to call Josh Brolin the hero. But Tommy Lee Jones is probably the hero, but he's dejected and he thinks he's fighting a losing cause. He doesn't understand what he's fighting for. But you had asked me my last question: how did Chigurgh get the drop on Woody Harrelson? And I said, God, that's a great question. And Woody Harrelson didn't know. His character didn't know. Then the phone's ringing and he shoots him, and then holy shit, that scared the crap out of Cole, because he didn't see that coming at all, which is true. So we move forward to Josh Brolin going to El Paso, and he's walking by the pool, and the pool lady asks him to have a beer, and what is he up in his room looking for? And what he says is, I'm looking for my honey, and I'm also looking for what's coming. And she says, honey, no one knows what's coming. Woody Harrelson didn't know. Cole didn't know. They fade to black. Guess what? All of a sudden, Josh Brolin's character is dead. The audience didn't know that was coming. He gets murdered not by Chigurgh, but by the cartel. He didn't know that was coming. I mean, the Coens kind of telegraphed it. They certainly didn't telegraph it, but they put it there for you to say, okay, this is life happens, and expect the unexpected, but you can't expect the unexpected, because when the unexpected happens, you're not ready for it. No one's ready for it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that also kind of echoes what when Sheriff Bell talks to the Catman, Ellis, at the very end of that scene. Ellis is like, what you got ain't nothing new. This country is hard on people, hard and crazy, got the devil in it, yet folks never seem to hold it to account. You're discouraged. And then he said, you can't stop what's coming, ain't all waiting on you, that's vanity. And so it's kind of like vanity to think that you can stop what's coming, and you can stop the dismal tide, as the other sheriff also said before. And, that's just kind of the way they wrap it up in a way. I mean, we get Carla Jean, obviously. We get another coin toss scene. Chigurgh, delivering his fate, his dismal tide of fate. But then he gets in a car accident. He didn't see what's coming there. So that's kind of proves he's just as human as the rest of us too. Although I feel like he's a Grim Reaper type character. That car accident kind of proves otherwise. He's just as human as the rest of us. And we end on Sheriff Bell talking to his wife about two dreams he had. The first dream he said that his dad gave him some money, and then he lost it. And then the second dream he had was of him riding on horseback through the mountains at night, and then his dad passed him while he was riding, and then Sheriff Bell found his dad later, and, quote, carrying a fire in a horn that the way people used to do, and I could see the horn from the light inside of it. Kevin, what was the meaning of these two dreams, do you think, and what did you think of the decision to end the film this way?
I think one dream's more obvious than the other. I think that the second dream about his father going ahead with the fire and waiting for him in the past is just an allegory towards death and joining his father in death after, the retirement and at the end of the career. The one about the money is a little more interesting. I wonder if it has something to do with borrowing something about the being a sheriff, like being money and then losing that money because, he's questioned by the retired deputy as to why he's quitting. Maybe he feels guilt about losing something that his father gave him, like the tradition of being a deputy and taking care of people. If he didn't have a reason to quit, his father was probably killed in action, right? He says he doesn't live past 40 or something along those lines. And I think but I think that's got to be something to do with it there. I think it's interesting that we end with him, but if the book mainly focuses on our sheriff character, which I believe it does, as far as most of the chapters start with narration from him, and as Cole alluded to, he's the first character listed on the credits, so it makes sense that it starts and ends with him, to be honest with you, because it does focus around kind of his story, while it also mainly focuses, on our other two characters as well. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's kind of what I was thinking.
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree. Cole, what did you think about the ending there?
I thought the ending, again, I mean, it's similar to the start, where it's Tommy Lee Jones telling a story that I'm just infatuated listening to him talk. But I think that first story, one thing, I don't know if maybe I'm projecting, but as someone that is vastly closely approaching their 30s with no kids, and comes from, a lot of generation. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones's character, as far as I know, he doesn't, you don't find out if he has any children, any kids, and his father was a sheriff, his grandfather was a sheriff, he was a sheriff, and maybe the money that he was borrowed and lost was the tradition of carrying on his family's tradition. Like, I come from a long line of farmers. I am by no means a farmer, and I have no kin to keep on the farmer, the farming lifestyle. So maybe I'm, again, projecting, but I kind of felt like maybe that was some connection, because, he talks about his wife. You see his wife. You never see any of his kids. He never mentions any kids that he has, as far as I remember. So I kind of took it as...
I don't think so, no.
Yeah, I took it as him being the last line of his family's, generational of being the sheriff of some county in Texas. And then obviously Kevin alluded to the second dream, and I agree about that for sure.
Ray, final thoughts on the ending?
The first part about the money, I think he's referring to the unsolved case, that he never found the money or the killer. That's what I think that is, an unfinished business. I agree with Kevin on the allegory about death, but I also think there's the positive aspect, because he has a line in the film when he's talking to, I think that's his uncle, maybe, because I refer to his daddy, and he says he was hoping that God would show him the way, but maybe he just wasn't worthy enough for God. At the end of the movie, in the dream, he sees his dead father holding a light, and his father's moving ahead because he's not there with him yet. But he knows that when he reaches him, he'll be waiting, and that's when he dies. And I think that's God coming to him in a dream. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely agree with the dad dream. I do think I had some money, I lost it. I think that might be like my dad was a sheriff. Yeah, his dad was a sheriff before me. And I squandered the family line of being a sheriff. I kind of agree with Cole's theory there, but yeah, it's supposed to be left up to interpretation. And before we give our ratings here, because I do want to do our A through F ratings. This film, No Country for Old Men, the book also was based off a William Butler Yeats poem, Sailing to Byzantium. And I'll just do a little excerpt here, and it starts as, "That is no country for old men, the young in one another's arms, birds in the trees, those dying generations at their song, the salmon falls, the mackerel crowded seas, fish, flesh, or fowl commend all summer long. Whatever is begotten, born and dies, caught in that sensual music all neglect, monuments of unaging intellect." So I feel like almost that poem is talking about this old ways getting lost with each generation and how each generation washes over the last one. If I had to read into that poem, but yeah.
Yeah. No, there's always like a generational struggle. Like, we talk about our generation to the next and how we're too digitized, too much internet, all that stuff. And then we look at like Gen Z and we're like, these kids are fucking crazy. But every generation always talks about
the one before them or the one after them.
Like, we hate the ones before us because they gave us this shithole, and then we shit on the one after us because we're like, these people are going to be the ones to take over after us? Are you kidding me? But yeah, it's always, the changing of the old guard. It's always such an interesting and fun topic to discuss when it comes to, it seems like we almost have like an amnesia, which we do because we didn't grow up as that generation. So in a way, they're generational amnesia, but it's always fun to hear how the next always talks about the others, and you could go back forever, and it's always been the same.
Yeah, no, and fair point here is that we get a lot of crap from baby boomers, millennials do, but baby boomers got a lot of crap from the greatest generation because they went to World War II and served in war, and then all of the greatest generation kind of thought baby boomers were these spoon-fed, spoiled people. So it is kind of a thing of one generation after the next just kind of crapping on another. And...
Don't forget the colonists. They had it the roughest.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into our final ratings here. I guess I'll start here. When I first saw this film, I was blown away by it. It's one of those films, like, growing up, it changed the way I thought about film. I thought about, like, what film could do, and the fact it was an anti-Western, it subverted genre, and the way that it ended, too, with an open-ended question. At that time, I was more used to kind of a ending that ties everything in a nice little bow, and, like, I wanted, like, the ultimate happy ending, and then when I saw Llewelyn we didn't even see him get gunned down. He got gunned down off screen, and then it ended with this like dream sequence, Tommy Lee Jones talking about a dream sequence. I was just like, wait, this can be done in film? I don't really understand. But then I like went home, read like 2 hours about like thoughts about the book, and I was just like, okay, this was a phenomenal film. Like I thought I loved it, but like, holy crap, like there's so much more to this than I thought. And that kind of like Easter egg is something that we see in so many A24 films nowadays. And it's like one of those things that I always give more points to films when it just like leaves you with something that makes you think for hours on end after. And so on top of that, of course, we have Javier Bardem's performance, Josh Brolin's performance, Kelly Macdonald's performance of Carly Jean, who was also in Trainspotting. She is one of my favorite actresses. Tommy Lee Jones, just like this amazing ensemble of a cast. Everything shot so perfectly, and a source material and screenplay that was just done and adapted so well, and that obviously was shown with they were given Best Adapted Screenplay plus Best Picture. So I got to give this film an A+24. I think it's one of the best films from 2000 to 2010. I can't argue to the lesser. There Will Be Blood might be a little bit better for me if I had to pick a top 10 from that decade. No Country for Old Men still just gets so much respect from me, especially with the influence it gave to me with enjoying film too. So yeah, A+. Ray, let's have you go next.
Well, like I said, I think this is the fourth time I've seen it, and I notice something new every time. It gets better and better. I've seen action scenes before, but not like in this movie. The dialogue just stings. When the people talk, it's just a joy to listen to what they say. It's profound. It's funny. The characters are memorable. I don't know what else can be said. I think it's one of the best films of the century. I know we're only 20% in, but I'd be hard pressed to put. I mean, it'd be in my top 10. I mean, it's a damn near perfect film. So the fact, again, I still get knots in my stomach when I watch this movie, and I know what's going to happen. Last time I watched it and they showed Josh Brolin laying on the ground dead, I heard myself gasp, and I knew he died. I mean, it just when a movie can draw you in like that and you know how it's going to end. It's like when a great storyteller tells you a story you already know, but you're sitting at the edge of your seat and you're the one that asks to hear the story, even though you've heard it 3-4 times and it never gets old. That's how I feel about this movie. I don't want to one up you, Eric, but I'm going to give this an A++ 24.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Mysterious numbers.
Oh my!
Thank you. Kevin, you up next.
All right. let's see. Let's find some things that either haven't been said or to expound upon something different. Eric started out this episode by saying we are reviewing this film because it's Oscar season. And we've kind of alluded to it, but this film won 4 of those. They were Best Picture, Best Director for the Coen Brothers, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor for Javier Bardem as Anton Chigurgh. So that just tells you a whole lot from the aspect of the respect from the film community, from the Oscar community, obviously, but it also shows, no, that's not always true. I mean, I'm not saying that they are completely infallible in their decisions, but it does show that there's a lot of respect in the peers that rated this film at the time, and it certainly has stand the test of time. Is that the right word? Yeah, stood up to the test of time. All of the themes that they were focusing on during this, from the idea that death can come from anywhere, right? And that money is fleeting and that family is something you should be more important to. Those themes can be taken and applied to film today and to everyday life. I think that me personally, being a huge fan of the Coen Brothers and just loving what they do in general, makes me love this movie even more, because it just fits in with the general narrative that those guys are brilliant, that they just know exactly what they're doing. Ray had talked about it earlier, but them just being, absolute masters at their craft and being able to do things that, he said it was a flex. Like, that's pretty brilliant if you can find a way to flex on an industry that has just put out some major films, and to come away with something so unique and so different. It just should get all the accolades in the world, and I'm glad that it does. And I'm glad we're sitting here reviewing it on a podcast about A24, which celebrates nothing but brilliant, well thought out, well shot film. And this certainly slots right in there with the best of them. This gets an A+24 for me. And if you haven't seen it, I don't know why you're listening to this or you got to this point, but hey, you go find it, go watch it. It's something that you need to do immediately. And for me, I'm gonna go read the book, because I really enjoyed The Road by Cormac McCarthy, so I think that this will also be something quite good for me to
The
dive
book
into.
is like a breezy, 200 pages too. It's like not very long. You could probably read it in 2 or 3 nights too, because it literally is just directly like the movie. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So that is my rating, and yay this movie.
Cool. Round us out.
Yeah. First off, I did not know the guy who wrote the book for this movie also wrote The Road, because I think I like The Road a lot. So I guess I have to read the book as well, because that sounds that's awesome. Before I get into my review, I have a couple fun facts that I just wanted to throw out there that I hadn't been able to interject into our conversation. The first one is when Tommy Lee Jones as the sheriff is approaching the 2 rooms that that Llewelyn was killed in, and the Mexican gang, like where that shootout happened. And he talks about how the guy comes back and he goes and he sees the locks are blown out of the door, and he that very high stress, high tension scene, and he opens the door and Chigurgh's not there. And that, I think, goes back to the whole 50-50 with the coin flip, where there's 2 doors. He went through door number 1, not door number 2, and he gets to live. And that's fate, again, playing a factor into this whole film. And then even outside of the film, there is a weird, almost fate-like quality of a fact that I found that is just kind of mind-blowing. Where in the novel, so the novel's set in 1980, and the Sheriff Bell talks about how he says, here a while back in San Antonio, they shot and killed a federal judge. And the federal judge there was a federal judge in real life killed in 1979. So a year prior, again, we're talking real world. John Wood was a federal judge killed in San Antonio, Texas by a freelance contract killer. That contract killer was Charles Harrelson, the father of Woody Harrelson, the guy who plays Carson Wells in
Wait, Woody
No
Harrelson's
Country for
father
Old
was a
Men.
contract killer?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. His dad, he like, there's like a whole thing where Woody Harrelson, his dad like leaves his family in like, I think like 76 or something, and he doesn't hear from him. They have no contact. They don't know what happened to him until he hears on the news that his father's arrested, and he ends up visiting him in prison and all that stuff. But yeah, the dude was a contract killer for like the mafia and stuff, and killed a federal judge. And then that whole murder was in the book that then the movie's based off of, that Woody Harrelson then gets, plays a hitman in, and like talk
Everything
about
Everywhere
fate
All at Once.
and everything else. Oh my God. When I read that, I was like, there's no way this is real. So then I went and I researched more, and I was like, holy shit, this is real. This is a part of like everything. And it just made me I don't know how you could. I just love it so much. It's so weird. And that just like goes into this whole film with fate and just like everything about it. The story, again, I love slice of life films, and for such like a wild, absurd story with cartels and drug money and hitmen and stuff like that. It just feels still like you're still in that situation of a slice of life. And then just how they show how quickly someone can lose their life and how precious a life is. And when you meet someone that is truly a psychopath, how little empathy and everything that they portray. And it's hard not to love this movie if you love like cinema. And, if you've watched, any of the Coen Brothers, like the first Coen Brother movie I ever saw was Fargo. And I love that movie when my father showed me that. And then now watching this 4 or 5 times now, I've just grown to appreciate it every single time. There's just so much like thought and love that was put into this between the novel and the Coen Brothers and everything that they did. They just like, it's hard to find anything besides silent shotguns and blown out locks to complain about. To complain about those two things is hard to complain about because they're so badass and so well utilized to strike fear into this film and to like grow the characters. I love this movie. And I watched, There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men back to back. And I'm a No Country for Old Men guy now. Like, I love both.
It's a little shorter.
Movies.
I could see why you'd like it more.
Yeah, exactly. It's 2 hours versus 3 hours. So, I don't got another 60 minutes to burn on that guy. But fantastic film. If you haven't seen it, I don't know what you're doing with your life. If you're listening to a film podcast and you haven't seen this film, go watch it, man. It is so good. It is an A+ 24. Yeah, like I don't want to shame anyone, but give us a 5-star review and go watch this film. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah,
A+.
If you're
24.
listening to this and you haven't watched it, you have to give us a 5-star review. Thank you on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So there you go. All right. Well, it is Oscar season. Next week we will review another A24 film. It will be Woodshock, which is not well reviewed and
not an Oscar winner.
Not an Oscar winner. In light of the Oscar seasons, I hope you're watching a lot of the Oscar nominated films that are going to be, that are out. And I hope that you are supporting film, sharing the love. So share the love with us too. Follow us on all our socials, rate us. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.